From 1980 to 2000, I led a team that compiled Media Network. We explored the background behind international broadcasting from the Second World War till the dawn of this millennium. Now it's time to share more untold stories with a second series, this time with a camera. I owe a lot to the city of Vienna and to the Austrian Shortwave Service for my start in broadcasting. In February 1974, I took part in a quiz that was running on the English service.
ORF test 74.
You had to answer one question a day for a month. I did, and I won first prize. A week in Vienna, courtesy of the Austrian Tourist Board. I went with my father, and it was truly wonderful. It was also where I decided that broadcasting sounded like a very interesting career. So in 1976, I wrote to David Hermges, head of the Austrian Radio's English department, and suggested I'd like to spend a gap year in Austria after leaving secondary school. I was too young to be taken seriously by the BBC, but David replied that if I found my own way to Vienna, there might be some broadcast freelance work to be had. I should brush up on my schoolboy German. So I spent £29 on a one-way ticket from London to Vienna and found lodgings on the Hansa-Nieserweg in the 13th district. It was a 5-minute walk to work at the ORF Centrum just up the hill. In 1976, the shortwave studios used to be here. I survived on writing pieces for Report from Austria and for a program on Sundays called Austrian Shortwave Panorama. In 1976, I also met with Wolf Harranth, at that time the editor of the German language program KurzwellenPanorama. So began a lifelong friendship. Fast forward now to the 2nd of September 2009. Austrian Radio's shortwave service in English has long since gone, and Wolf is now leading the world's largest radio documentation project. It's in a building across the road from the ORF Funkhaus on the Argentinastrasse in downtown Vienna. And we have an invitation to visit.
Well, welcome to the Documentary Archives radio commentation. Come in and have a look. There is something written on our doorstep that you might have translated. Whatever you will find here wouldn't be here any longer if it wasn't here. It is just two generations that experience immediately what happens. Everything else is just remembering. Come in. Wow. This is our playground. The whole wide world is our playground. And what you will find here is a couple of awards and documents. We don't put them up here to boast with them. We simply haven't got the room to store all those 20, 30, 40,000 diplomas.
And these were for what, contests or for?
This is membership diplomas contests. It's amateur radio. It's broadcasting. It's immediately after the war. It's easy. It's difficult. It's just decorations.
It's actually a celebration of people having fun. And being curious about what's happening in the rest of the world.
It's always great fun. It's always great fun to listen to the radio, to transmit yourself, to listen to amateur radio. Communications is fun. Sometimes it's sad, but it's sad fun at that time. Come in. Well, this is a very, 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 very small part of our QSL card collection. We have about 7.5 million cards now. Now means this is the 2nd of September 2009. We will have about 100,000 more next month also. These are amateur radio cards being donated, and we have to go through them card by card by card by card to find out which ones we need for particular collections. And what we need is being kept here, and all the rest is being stored forever and a day.
Okay, so I mean,
Now that's just the trash.
okay,
The trash of today.
Okay.
And this is a trash of yesterday.
okay,
And it's the treasure of today. It's pre-war cards, and you wouldn't find another collection like this one anywhere else in the whole wild world.
So this is a record of communication that's happened pre-war
Pre-war communication.
between
22 and 45. So, trash of today, treasure of tomorrow, and at the same time, it is research stuff. It doesn't mean much. You don't see much. If you just see files and files and files of documents. These 2 rows of documents took 2 years of research, and they will save years and years and years of research for students. It's the extract of 52 kilometers of documents to collect whatever is there of importance concerning Austrian media. Let me give you another example. Behind us are about 250,000 cards from the German Democratic Republic. Trash. Everybody worked GDR. Everybody worked GDR. I invite you now to try to get hold to a radio amateur from the German Democratic Republic. It doesn't exist any longer. It's past. It's history. More than that, this used to be a country very eager to be #1 worldwide, say, in sports and other achievements. And of course, they also wanted to be #1 in radio sports. The problem is they didn't want their people to transmit on the air without any control. So how can you be #1 and at the same time restrict? A very, very difficult system of controlling and checking and spies and collaborators and lists and whatever you have. Trying to find out what was officially being published and who did what to control amateurs, how the whole system worked, how radio amateurs were used for other purposes, for state security or whatever there is. That's part of our research. And we need those cards in addition to all the files we get from the official archives and all the recordings and stuff we get from the individual persons. We have about 1,500 bequests and estates and donations from all over the world. We are by far the largest collection, and don't be misled by these cards, of all kinds of documentation related to the history and development of radio communication, amateur radio, broadcasts, whatever you have.
it's your idea.
Not really. It might be my brainchild, but things exploded. This the genius out of the bottle, so to say. It started with the shoebox. We didn't anticipate 25 years ago that once this would be the largest and by far the most valued and recommended collection, archive, file, research file, clearinghouse of its kind. There was a time when DXing, as it was called, listening to the world on shortwave radio, after World War II, where people listened for other reasons, but during the Cold War became the fashion. Every country had a radio station broadcasting in each and every language to each and every part of the world, because all the other ones also did so. And some of the radio stations, the international broadcasters, offered a couple of minutes with a radio show, just saying that Mr. Jonathan Marks from the Netherlands listened to our station on 6155 with a good signal, and we thank him and play the Blue Danube Waltz just for him. Well, I made a little bit more out of that. A media magazine. I could claim that we invented the media magazine, the journalistic media magazine, because Radio Austria International was broadcasting from an independent country, from a neutral country. It was not part and parcel of the Cold War. It was not part and parcel of the one or the other side. So we had listeners in the East and the West. We had listeners in Israel and in Egypt. We had listeners in India and in Pakistan. The terrorist of the ones is the freedom fighter of the other ones. It's very, very difficult to report unless you take the media as an example. You have something happening, and you just relate what the media on both sides told the people. You don't only relate it, you prove it with examples. You start to interview people, and you get a huge amount of audience, great audience. And this is what we did. Trying to be as unbiased as possible. And the media show was the perfect means of being political, very political, without taking sides and without being political. And we created a huge audience of radio listeners. You wouldn't find that in CNN or whatever it is. And if you go to the next media internet cafe, you can look, but you can't listen. And radio is listening. So you can't stop the trend. But it is a pity that a piece of culture, a means of culture, a medium that has its own merits is going down the drain. Sometimes we feel that we are collecting the end pieces, and then we feel that this will carry on. You and I won't be there any longer, and there will still be a voice talking into a microphone somewhere, and a listener listening to that voice somewhere else. You don't know what will be trash or treasure later on. So we cannot pick and choose, really. We take what we get, and happily enough, we get lots and lots and lots. If a broadcaster closes down a language program, we get the whole stuff. If somebody recorded tapes all his life long, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 tapes, we get 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 tapes. Many of them are of no particular importance. Some are extremely rare. Which one is the extremely rare one? The one you are looking for because you are an editor, you are a journalist, you are a media buff, your grandfather was stationed there, and you want to get a photograph of his radio station or whatever it was. Over there, what you see is not as important as it looks. What you can't see is the important things, but all this is reference. Be it a card from the Antarctica, from Mount Everest, be it King Hussein of Jordan's late card, or this is the King of Sikkim, who also used to be a radio amateur. If you want to learn more about that, you should consult our web page. We have a long story about him and other ones. This is part of research. It shows that radio and communication is history, is not just it's heritage. It's heritage. Unfortunately, not really honored by UNESCO and so on. What you can't see, or what doesn't mean anything for you, is if you, for instance, take a look at these. This is just documents. It's just documents. By the way, have a look. United Nations radio amateur station from Jerusalem. When was it? 1957. Just one of the things that have been done. So, back to this. It's just documents. Documents that do not exist. This is a complete set collected in many, many years of the circulars of the German Amateur Radio Society between 1933 and 1945, a Third Reich. And it all was burned down and destroyed when the headquarters was destroyed by air bombs. For many of them, it was a happy thing because their past was burning as well. We keep these files, and they are the only ones existing up to today, and they are 90% complete. We know that there was an amateur radio station in Hitler's headquarters until March 45.
And this was somebody who was it set up for political reasons, or was it simply? It was
communication, but the only communication that was remaining when the Second World War broke out, and Hitler claimed that Polish people raided a German broadcasting station. It was, in fact, a group of Germans, and one of them was a radio amateur. And the first ones to work underground, clandestine, were amateurs. Let me show you something else. We were talking about, I hope I can find it. I wasn't really expecting, yeah, there you are, expecting you. We talked about all those documents of the Third Reich being burned. Now, this is a unique document of the German Democratic Republic. When they started to allow, we're talking about amateur radio again instead of broadcasting, when they started to allow amateur radio again, they needed strong anti-fascists to build this new organization. This is the first page. It's a unique document. Nobody knew that it was still existing. The first page of the list of those who were invited or allowed. Now, if we would go over to our files over there, radio before Germany before 45, you would find many of those names being Nazi representatives, being members of the Nazi Party, being functionaries of the Nazi Party. They could believe that everything was destroyed. This is part of history. Yes, it's heritage.
So what happened then? They simply switched sides, or
no? I do not blame them. In 1945, they found themselves in East Germany. They had been radio amateurs before. They wanted to be radio amateurs again. When amateur radio was allowed again, they were asked or volunteered, and they could be more or less sure that their past was not known. And in between them, they of course kept silent. I do not blame them. I don't know what I would have done if I had been at that time in that position. I just state the fact that we can reconstruct the development of these years and trace these people. Not more than that, but that's part of research. And this is part of, political history. 20 years later, when the GDR collapsed and became part of the German Federal Republic, it was the same people, the same judges, the same civil servants, the same doctors. the same ordinary people on the street, the party members, the fellow travelers, the persecuted, the same thing.
Very weird times.
Very weird times. Yes, come on.
Yes, we haven't seen everything yet.
Yeah, you haven't seen anything. We could go on and on and on and on and on.
You should point out that this building also has a radio history.
Yes, this used to be the editorial offices of Radio Austria International, until the station was closed down in 2003.
And did you have a situation, because it started here in the Argentinastrasse, then it went to Würzburggasse, and then it came back?
Yeah. It came back, and it was over there, broadcasting house, and over here again. Well, we moved and moved and moved. Moving is a good thing. Keep moving. Meet Ahmedin, one of our good corporates and team members. This is part of the library. It's part of the library because we don't have room enough for all the books, but it is a very representative selection of books, periodicals, whatever you have for concerning amateur radio and broadcasting. Here at last we are with broadcasting.
Radio Wien was the sort of radio magazine?
That was the radio magazine, yes, and you wouldn't find a complete set like this one anywhere else in Austria and somewhere else. So you would have to go to Berlin to find their complete archives, or you just simply stay with us. This is an Australian paper, because the Australian organization is one of our supporting members, like so many others. These are periodicals dating back to 1912. You can't see much because we try to digitalize the whole thing, getting stuff. Haven't got the room to put all of it together. Shall we carry on?
Österreich, Kurzwelle.
Funny recollections. I must remind you that we are international. We are not just Austria, but of course we keep our own souvenirs. We are very proud of our past.
From Austria, with news and views from our studio in Vienna.
Yeah, we have a number of sections.
Like a center that sits on the radio.
And look at that. And we have a number of broadcasters plate.
It's broadcast quality.
Broadcast quality.
Yeah. My career starts with serving coffee.
Yeah, well, this is his second day. We have a number of sections. We have two realms: amateur radio, broadcasting. And we have a number of sections. One is the audio and video plural, where we try to get hold and record whatever is media related, be it transmitted on satellite or local radio, whatever it is. That's the audio and video pool. And there we get tapes that are being donated, and we record ourselves very systematically as far as this is possible. We cannot record whatever is happening all around the world. The next part is the library. We collect periodicals, all kind of publications, magazines. We try to digitalize them to make them researchable. The third part is the documentary archive, documents of all kinds, pictures, written things, all archive files, files from anywhere, everything. We try to get hold of that. A particular field is the research into Austrian radio. We are based in Austria. And funny enough, Austrian Radio did never have its own historical instance. So, in order,
so it had an archive, but there was no historian.
No, they never had an archive. they have an archive of their own recordings, but not an archive on the development of radio in Austria, not development of broadcasting in Austria, no development of the company. Never, ever. Don't ask me why. Things happen. There are countries where it's obligatory, where it's in the law, you must have radio stations, must keep their... Well, Austrian Radio does not. That's our great chance, because Austrian Radio is one of the 3 supporting members or on the board of our group. So if we do that, and if we do it properly, this might help us to survive. If we can offer something to them, we can ask them to support parts of our archives that are of no interest to a broadcaster, speak a lot of Austrian Radio. Yeah, and the final part is the QSL collection. So all these sections together form the documentary archives. Yeah, we were talking about amateur radio before. Now this is broadcasting. This is broadcast QSL cards. Or reception reports, or confirmation letters from all over the world. Sometimes, that's a nice thing, for instance.
Brazzaville.
Yeah, Brazzaville, 1968. Whatever is here would not be here if it was not here. What is this? Ecuador, yeah. HCJB. Yeah. One of the many of that. Well. We could carry on like this.
Falkland Islands?
Falkland Islands? You want to see Falkland Islands? Falkland Islands would be a good idea to tell you what we're doing. So let's first of all see what we have from Falkland Islands. Sorry, it's just gone because we did research on the Falkland Islands. Could you give me another?
Okay.
Fiji is a good thing. Fiji. That's Fiji.
So what's this?
This is a QSL card of the Fiji Broadcasting Commission. And it's one of the great things that once in your lifetime you pick up that station. You've been trying for years and years on end. And just once they are almost inaudible. You can hear them through the hiss. And you're not quite sure it's Fiji until they say, Fiji, something about Fiji. This must be Fiji Islands. You send a reception report, and they don't reply. You send another one, and then you meet a friend of yours, and ask him. I heard Fiji, and everybody hears Fiji. Here's my QSL card. And you're so envious, and all of a sudden, you get it. That's the one you get. Well, it's a really rare one because we only have 3 of them in the whole collection. We're talking about the Falklands. What would be a good idea? When the Argentine invaded the Falklands, the chap that did the evening show went to the studio to say, "Hello, everybody. Aunt Margaret is still in the hospital. Jack will come home from the kindergarten tonight, play with things." What was scheduled to last for, say, half an hour or an hour was a 17 hours broadcast, ending with the Argentine soldiers entering the studio. Great thing. Communication between the Falklands and London was practically impossible. But there was a radio amateur who had a friend in London, and he said, "Remember my old phone number? If I say first digit, this is how much we go up. Second, how much we go down to avoid jamming or interference." And that way they communicated. All the information you got from the Falklands was via, was via that means. He didn't tell the story for 25 years. We got the first and only interview from that chap. And BBC transmitted to the Falklands, of course, from Ascension Island. We have the recordings. The Argentine had underground stations. We have the recordings. The British had underground stations, had clandestine stations, had subversive stations. We all got Radio Malvinas. So this is
Radio
Radio Atlantico del Sur. This is what you will find here. Yeah, this is a typical working place. Every card, every document must first of all be sorted, filed. We have just started. This is really a project that will take hours on end. Filing, how do you call them?
Awards?
Awards, yeah. This is filing awards, yeah. Filing awards. Broadcasting, radio, whatever you have from all over the world. And
do you have anything from the Czech Republic, the old Radio Prague Monitor Club?
they must be over there. You were daring me, huh? I'm not sure whether we would have to look for it.
Okay.
Because it's just we have
I
just
guess you got the RBI DX Club.
yeah we have just started to
And I just saw Hungary here too.
yeah.
Pretty Budapest.
This is all broadcasting. This is Sofia, Bulgaria.
They gave out diplomas, didn't they?
Yeah. This is Radio Berlin
That's right,
International.
yeah.
You could. The master diploma was for 5,000 reception reports. Unfortunately, the GDR didn't exist that long to allow this.
Here we have the Budapest.
Yeah, here's another one from Budapest. There is no question that we have Radio Prague as well. Monitor Club.
I think that's it.
This could be the one you're looking for.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the one you were looking for.
That's it.
Well, it took us longer than expected. If these
And it's signed
by
Peter Scala.
Peter Scala, yeah.
Who was in fact already cheap.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. We know. Once this project is finished, I should be able to produce that award or one of our team members within, say, a minute. Unfortunately, it took us longer than that. We are still...
How many people are helping you?
Between none and 12.
Okay.
It always depends on how many volunteers we find, how many students are researching, and it depends on the donations. If we get a little subvention or something like this, we can carry on with the project, and if not, we have to wait. We always manage.
Is there a danger that this could go away? Because we are going through an economic crisis, and we are also going through a period where some people, some broadcasters especially, are forgetting about the past.
Being an historian is next to be, a collector of ant eggs or something like this. We have no commercial value. Therefore, we are always of course there is if you sell it, you might get some money from it in eBay or whatever it is. But we are not part and parcel of commercialized items.
But you have an incalculable cultural value.
Yeah, but you can't put this into a budget. This is somebody spent his whole time over years and years just to collect these cards. They tell stories. Cuba is something else. Peking is something else. Radio Australia is something else. The voice of free China, the voice of Vietnam. We are talking about the world's history. Radio Afghanistan.
And they were always amazing because I think the contest was how many times the announcer could say the word Afghanistan in the broadcast.
Things like this. Yeah, there was always happy stories, funny stories. Voz de Angola, whatever it is. Yeah. Radio Voice of the Gospel in Ethiopia. Ethiopia doesn't exist any longer. This is part of the life of somebody, and it gives me the goosepimples whenever I get a shoebox or something like this. And it gives me the feeling that we are the ones to carry on. Don't ask me if we are threatened. Yes, always. Ask me whether we think we will survive. Yes, I do though. I cannot imagine that somebody, that there is not somebody who can feel how important it is to keep all these things. We do not collect hardware with a few exceptions. This, for instance, is a run-of-the-mill communications receiver of the 60s, 70s. The chap who owned this worked 1,500 awards, the most difficult ones. Others have huge equipment and they don't manage to get all these things. He did with that simple transceiver.
And the Frog 7 was indeed
it was a good one.
Incredible for its day.
For its days.
Wadley loops and all that.
This is just stuff to go to the storerooms. Fortunately, this has been done. Yeah.
Sitting on the shelf, yes.
Yeah. When we were talking about radios, if you had a radio like this one, you never knew whether you are on 6155 or on 62 or whatever it is. Bollywoodley from South Africa were the first ones to give you a 5 kilohertz accuracy. Yeah. Or I think we don't have a yes. There you are. This Trio 1000. You started at say 8 o'clock, and it had to warm up until 10.
Otherwise, it wasn't stable.
It wasn't stable enough, and you kept lists, and you knew that if you put this here and here, somewhere here, there might be an exotic station, and you stayed up all night, and you heard a radio station, music. You even identified a piece of music. It was Spanish, therefore probably it was Venezuela or something like that. So you consulted your very first books, and it said, this could be Radio Juventud. It could be Radio Faro del Caribe. What strikes me most is when listening to one of those programs, not only ours, but all these shows, that it took 40, 50, 60 hours, a whole week, to compile stuff for half an hour. And how we labored to get the station identification, recorded it night after night after night, and played back 7 or 8 seconds. What a wealth of information we have. We're keeping files of the development of amateur radio and international broadcasting on a daily basis for the past 15 years here at the archives. This is just files, events, but we can back them up with all the tapes and recordings of all the colleagues that did media shows. If someone just goes mouse clicking through our files, you will find an audio for almost everything that happened in the past 20, 30, 40 years. It's an incredible wealth of information that you wouldn't find anywhere else. That's what we're really proud of.
It's actually amazing too that the public service broadcasters are the only broadcasters in the world that are also given the, in some cases, the funds to build the electronic heritage of the country.
Long live public broadcasting. Long live private commercial radio. But let them live side by side as equal partners. I've come up from a kind of funny psychological background. I don't think in quota. Quota is what you have had last week and what you have this week. Psychologists think in generations. If a generation of if young people don't learn to use the media as part of their life, if they are satisfied with a soundbite of 30 seconds as news, they will grow up and they won't be able to teach their children to listen to the radio.
And so we leave Wolf Harranth and the Radio Documentary Archive for now. But we will return in the next episode of Media Network, because 9 years later, on my second visit, there was so much more to tell, from a very different location. Thanks to everyone who's made today's edition possible. And if you liked the program, please drop us an email with your own stories and adventures in international radio. In the meantime, back soon. Goodbye for now.